Attraction isn't about looks, money, or luck, it's about energy. The right man can flip a woman's interest from cold indifference to burning desire without saying a single desperate word. In this video, I'll reveal 6 secrets that turn rejection into curiosity and curiosity into attraction. If you've ever wondered how to make a woman want you even when she's not interested, you're about to find out. Confidence is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can have, and it is far more than just standing tall or speaking loudly. True confidence is not about acting tough, bragging, or trying to dominate every conversation. It is a deep, quiet assurance that radiates from within, a signal that you know your own worth regardless of whether others recognize it or not. Women are drawn to this because confidence communicates safety, stability, and power without the need for words. When a man enters a room and carries himself as if he belongs there, he doesn't need to convince anyone of his value. His presence alone makes people notice, and women instinctively respond to that energy. Confidence becomes magnetic because it taps into something primal. For most of human history, women sought out partners who could protect, provide, and lead. While society has changed, the subconscious attraction to these signals has not. A confident man doesn't have to prove he can handle life. He shows it in the way he carries himself. He doesn't flinch under pressure. He doesn't break down at the first sign of challenge, and he doesn't crumble when rejected. That kind of resilience tells a woman that he is not only capable of handling himself, but also capable of handling the storms of life, and by extension, supporting a relationship. This assurance is deeply attractive, even if she isn't initially interested, because confidence alters perception. What might start as indifference can turn into curiosity, and curiosity can grow into desire. The mistake many men make is confusing confidence with arrogance. Arrogance is loud, needy, and defensive. It's about showing off to cover insecurity. Real confidence is the opposite. It doesn't need validation. A man who is truly confident doesn't have to constantly prove himself or demand attention. He knows his strengths, he accepts his weaknesses, and he doesn't fear judgment. This balance is what makes women relax around him. They can feel that he is not trying to manipulate or impress them. He is simply being. That authenticity combined with self-assurance creates a rare and irresistible mix. Imagine 2 men approaching the same woman. The first is nervous, second-guessing every word and desperate for her approval. The second speaks naturally, maintains eye contact, smiles without forcing it, and treats her like an equal rather than a prize to be won. Even if the second man isn't conventionally attractive, his energy is different. He seems comfortable in his own skin, which instantly makes the woman more open to him. This is the power of confidence. It transforms perception. It changes the way every word and gesture is received. Confidence also has a contagious quality. When a man is grounded and secure, he makes the people around him feel more secure as well. A woman senses that she can trust him, that he won't panic in difficult moments, and that he won't crumble under pressure. This stability is deeply attractive because it speaks to a deeper human need for safety and certainty. Even if she isn't initially interested, her subconscious begins to recognize him as someone worth paying attention to. Over time, this subtle shift in perception can completely change the dynamic between them. Confidence is also tied to independence. A man who knows his value doesn't chase after every woman for approval. He is selective, not because he is playing games, but because he respects himself enough to not beg for validation. Women pick up on this instantly. When they realize that a man is confident enough to walk away, it makes them want to lean in. Indifference born from insecurity pushes people away, but indifference born from genuine self-assurance draws them closer. This paradox is one of the strongest forces in attraction, and it all starts with a man's ability to carry himself with unshakable confidence. Scarcity and mystery are 2 of the most powerful forces when it comes to attraction, and they work on a psychological level that often bypasses logic. Human beings naturally place more value on things that are rare or hard to obtain. When something feels too available, it loses its charm, but when it feels limited, it becomes instantly more desirable. This same principle applies to relationships and attraction. If a man is always available, always eager, and always pouring his attention onto a woman who is not interested, he unintentionally signals that he has nothing else going on in his life. His time and attention stop feeling valuable because he gives them away too easily. On the other hand, when he becomes less accessible, when he holds a little back, and when he lives a life that seems just out of reach, a woman begins to wonder what makes him so confident, so self-sufficient, and so different from the rest. That curiosity is the spark that can shift her perception. Mystery amplifies this effect by leaving unanswered questions. When a man doesn't reveal everything about himself, he becomes a puzzle, and people are naturally drawn to puzzles because they want to solve them. Women in particular are wired to pick up on details, patterns, and emotional cues. If a man reveals every detail about his life immediately, there's nothing left for her to discover, and the excitement fades. But when he shares selectively, just enough to intrigue but not enough to satisfy, he creates an ongoing tension that keeps her interested. She begins to think about him more often because her mind is trying to fill in the blanks. This isn't about being secretive in a deceptive way. It's about understanding the power of restraint. A man who maintains mystery signals that he is not desperate to be understood or validated, and this in itself becomes very attractive. The dynamic of scarcity also shifts the balance of power in subtle ways. A man who doesn't rush to respond to every message, who doesn't rearrange his entire life just to fit into hers, communicates that his world is already full. He has purpose, goals, and commitments that matter to him, and a woman has to earn her place in that world. This automatically increases his value in her eyes, because he is no longer presenting himself as someone waiting for her approval, but as someone already living with direction. A woman may not have been interested at first, but when she notices that this man doesn't need her attention to feel complete, her curiosity begins to grow. She starts to wonder why he is so different, why he is not chasing like everyone else, and what it would mean to be part of his life. Mystery also creates space for imagination, and imagination is often stronger than reality. When a woman doesn't know everything about a man, her mind fills in the gaps with possibilities. Those possibilities are often far more intriguing than anything he could have said outright. This is why the most charismatic men often say less but imply more. They let their actions, their silence, and their presence speak louder than explanations. This subtlety pulls her in without pressure, and the attraction feels organic rather than forced. Another key part of scarcity and mystery is the way they trigger competition. When a man is not easily won over, women instinctively begin to see him as more valuable, and they may even compete for his attention. This is not about manipulation, but about the simple truth that humans value what is not easily available. If every woman can have him, the appeal fades, but if his attention feels rare, it becomes worth pursuing. Even a woman who wasn't interested at first may find herself reevaluating him once she realizes that his energy is not freely given to everyone. Scarcity and mystery are powerful, not because they trick someone into attraction, but because they highlight a deeper truth. A man who values himself doesn't need to be fully understood or constantly available. He lets others earn his time, he shares his story slowly, and he maintains a life that stands strong with or without her presence. This balance of distance and intrigue makes him unforgettable, and it transforms the way he is perceived even by those who initially overlooked him. Attraction is not determined by surface qualities alone, such as appearance, wealth, or status. What truly pulls a woman in and makes her want to stay is the way a man makes her feel. Emotions are the language of attraction, and they leave a far stronger imprint on memory than anything material. A man can be tall, handsome, or successful, but if he leaves her feeling bored, unappreciated, or disconnected, the attraction fades quickly. On the other hand, a man who can create emotions like excitement, joy, curiosity, or even a sense of safety leaves a lasting impression that often overrides his physical or social advantages. This is why emotional impact matters more than looks or money, because emotions are personal and deeply tied to how a woman experiences the connection. When a man makes a woman laugh, he's not just being entertaining. He's allowing her to relax, let her guard down, and feel light in his presence. That shift in emotional state becomes associated with him, making her want to experience it again. Similarly, when a man shows depth, listens attentively, and makes her feel understood, he creates emotional resonance. In a world where many people feel unheard, being truly seen and acknowledged is powerful. That moment of connection often means more to her than any gift or compliment because it touches something deeper than surface validation. Emotional experiences are what stay in memory long after the words are forgotten. It's important to realize that women are highly attuned to emotional cues. They don't just listen to what is said, they feel the tone, the energy, and the intention behind it. A man who is stiff, nervous, or overly calculated makes her feel tension, and that discomfort blocks attraction. But a man who is playful, confident, and relaxed puts her at ease, and that comfort turns into warmth. The way she feels around him determines whether she wants to continue being around him, and this is where many men overlook the true source of desire. They focus on external displays of wealth, style, or status without realizing that the internal ability to shape emotions is what makes all the difference. Emotional impact also creates a sense of unpredictability, which adds to attraction. When every interaction feels the same, it quickly becomes dull. But when a man can shift between humor, intensity, thoughtfulness, and light teasing, he keeps her engaged. This variety in emotions mimics the rhythm of a compelling story, and people naturally want to stay inside stories that move them. A woman might not be interested at first, but if she starts to feel alive, excited, or curious in his presence, her perspective changes. Desire doesn't always come from rational choice. It often emerges from the emotions that take root before logic can intervene. Another important factor is the way emotional impact builds attachment. The human brain ties people to the emotions they consistently evoke. If a woman consistently feels happy, inspired, or valued when she's with a man, her mind starts linking him with those states. Over time, she begins to crave his presence because being with him feels like being in that emotional state again. This is why women often say they remember how a man made them feel rather than what he said. It is the emotion that lingers, not the words. Looks and money might grab attention, but they don't sustain desire. Emotional connection is what transforms initial interest into lasting attraction. Even if a woman wasn't drawn to a man at first, once he creates emotional impact, she may find herself reconsidering. She realizes that being around him feels good in ways she hadn't expected, and those feelings begin to outweigh her earlier indifference. In the end, it is not the superficial traits that matter most, but the emotions a man can spark, because emotions bypass logic and create bonds that reason alone cannot break. Neediness is one of the quickest ways to push a woman away, while respectful indifference can make her lean closer even when she wasn't initially interested. Attraction thrives on balance, and a man who shows that he values her attention but doesn't depend on it demonstrates inner strength. This creates a sense of security and authority that women naturally respond to. When a man appears desperate, always texting first, always chasing, always trying to prove himself, he sends the signal that his happiness is tied to her approval. That makes her feel burdened rather than intrigued. But when a man shows respectful indifference, acknowledging her value while not placing her at the center of his emotional world, she feels the pull of someone who cannot be easily owned or controlled. This dynamic works because women are wired to sense the difference between need and choice. A needy man communicates that he doesn't believe he can do better, that he is uncertain of his worth, and that he would do anything just to keep her around. Instead of inspiring attraction, this creates pressure, and pressure kills desire. A man who can remain calm when she pulls away, who doesn't panic when she isn't responding with the same energy, shows that he has emotional stability. This steadiness makes her feel safe because it suggests he won't fall apart in the face of rejection or challenge. Safety is a foundation of attraction, and indifference rooted in self-respect signals that safety better than any words could. Respectful indifference does not mean rudeness or coldness. It's not about ignoring her feelings, dismissing her existence, or playing childish games of withdrawal. Instead, it's about maintaining a frame where his life remains full and meaningful, whether she chooses to participate in it or not. He gives her attention when it feels natural, but he does not overextend himself in hopes of buying her affection. He respects her space, her choices, and her pace, while also respecting his own boundaries. This balance tells her that he values her but values himself more, and that ratio is what makes her attraction grow. When a man embodies this, the energy between them shifts. She starts to question why he isn't chasing, why he seems unaffected by her distance, and why his emotions don't hinge on her every response. Curiosity replaces disinterest, because most men crumble under the weight of female indifference. When she meets a man who doesn't, she sees him as rare. This rarity transforms her perception, making her want to test and engage with him more, not out of manipulation, but because his independence makes her feel drawn in. Psychologically, respectful indifference creates space for desire to grow. Constant availability smothers attraction because it removes all tension and anticipation. But when a man shows that he has his own priorities, that he is not sitting around waiting, she begins to wonder what is so important in his life. That wondering turns into interest, and that interest fuels attraction. Instead of him trying to convince her of his value, she begins to search for it herself. And when someone searches for value, they are more likely to see it. Another layer to this is that respectful indifference shifts the power dynamic. Instead of her feeling that she is being pursued by someone who will tolerate anything just to be with her, she begins to realize that he is the one choosing how much of himself to invest. This makes her attention feel like something that must be earned rather than something given freely without effort. That subtle shift changes everything because people value most what they must earn. Even if she wasn't interested before, the recognition that his affection isn't automatic makes her reevaluate him. In the end, women are not drawn to men who beg, plead, or surrender their dignity. They are drawn to men who treat their attention as valuable but not vital, who respect a woman's presence but also their own independence. Respectful indifference is not about withholding love, but about showing that your world doesn't collapse without it, and that balance makes any woman far more likely to want to step closer. A man who lives with purpose radiates a kind of power that goes beyond charm or appearance, and this is one of the strongest forms of attraction. Purpose is the direction that drives his actions, the fuel behind his discipline, and the reason he wakes up with energy every morning. Women instinctively feel drawn to men who know where they are going, because it signals leadership and strength. A man who is guided by purpose does not rely on a woman to give him meaning. Instead, he invites her into a life that already has direction. This is far more attractive than being someone who is aimless and waiting for love to complete him. When a man has clear goals and works toward them, he projects focus. This focus is magnetic because it shows that he has standards, not just for others but for himself. A man without goals can easily become stagnant, drifting from one moment to the next with no real passion or drive. That kind of energy rarely inspires attraction because it feels heavy, uncertain, and uninspiring. On the other hand, when a woman sees a man chasing something bigger than himself, whether it's building a business, pursuing mastery in a skill, or improving himself daily, she senses that he is aligned with something powerful. That alignment naturally pulls her in because it feels like stepping into the current of a river that's moving with strength. Purpose also creates authority. A man who lives with direction doesn't need to constantly prove his worth because his actions already reflect it. He doesn't have to beg for recognition or validation. His consistency and discipline speak louder than words. This kind of authority is deeply attractive because it shows he is a leader of his own life, and leadership is a timeless quality that women admire. A man who can guide himself is someone who can guide others, and this makes her feel that being with him would mean being part of something greater than ordinary. It's also important to recognize that women pay close attention to how a man spends his time. If his time is wasted on distractions, unhealthy habits, or endless attempts to seek attention, she subconsciously registers him as lacking depth. But if his time is spent in pursuit of meaningful work, personal growth, or the pursuit of excellence, she sees him as a man of value. That value is what makes her feel attracted, even if she wasn't initially interested. Attraction often grows in the presence of consistency, and purpose provides that consistency by giving a man something larger to live for. Living with purpose also prevents the energy of neediness from creeping into interactions. A man who has no mission often tries to make a woman his mission, which quickly suffocates attraction. He places all of his energy on her, hoping she will provide him with the meaning he lacks. But a man with purpose is already full. He doesn't chase out of emptiness. He shares from abundance. This difference is easy to feel. When she realizes that he does not need her to feel fulfilled but would value her as a companion on his journey, her respect grows. Respect is the soil from which attraction develops, and purpose plants that seed. Another overlooked part of purpose is how it inspires emotion. Watching someone chase their goals passionately is exciting. It creates admiration, curiosity, and sometimes even envy. These emotions stir attraction because they make him stand out from the crowd. Most people settle for mediocrity, but the man with a mission shows her what ambition looks like in real time. His drive becomes contagious, and being near him makes her feel more alive. This emotional uplift becomes tied to him, and over time she begins to crave it. Purpose is not about perfection or always knowing exactly what the future holds. It is about clarity, effort, and the refusal to remain stagnant. It is about having a vision that gives his life meaning and direction. When a man lives this way, his presence feels powerful, his words carry weight, and his actions inspire trust. A woman may not have noticed him at first, but when she sees that his life has momentum, that he is building something real, and that he stands for more than momentary pleasure, attraction begins to grow naturally. His purpose becomes the fire that lights everything around him, and that fire is impossible to ignore. Authenticity is one of the most underrated yet powerful forces of attraction, and it is often misunderstood in a world that encourages people to wear masks. Many men believe they have to play games, pretend to be someone else, or follow scripted tricks to win a woman's interest, but these strategies almost always fail in the long run. Pretending may get short-term attention, but it cannot sustain real desire because eventually the truth reveals itself. Women are remarkably perceptive when it comes to sensing energy, intention, and congruence. They can feel when a man is acting from his true self and when he is putting on a performance. Authenticity wins because it communicates honesty, strength, and confidence without effort. And those are the qualities that last long after first impressions fade. When a man embraces authenticity, he is not trying to be universally liked. He is not bending himself to fit into every expectation or changing his behavior based on what he thinks will impress someone else. Instead, he is comfortable in his own skin, expressing his real thoughts, emotions, and values without shame. This creates an aura of trustworthiness because what you see is what you get. Women are naturally drawn to this because it eliminates the tension of wondering whether a man is genuine or hiding something. That comfort opens the door to attraction because it allows her to relax and be more authentic herself. People mirror the energy they receive, and authenticity invites authenticity in return. Authenticity is also attractive because it is rare. Many men rely on exaggerations or false confidence to mask their insecurities. They boast about achievements, exaggerate their experiences, or pretend to be tougher, richer, or smarter than they really are. At first this may impress, but over time it always feels hollow. A woman may enjoy the attention or the performance for a short while, but eventually she feels the emptiness underneath, and the attraction fades. In contrast, a man who owns his flaws, admits his mistakes, and still carries himself with self-respect becomes unforgettable. He shows that he doesn't need to hide behind a mask to feel valuable, and that kind of self-acceptance is extremely rare and magnetic. Authenticity also ties directly to masculine energy. Masculinity is not about domination or aggression. It is about groundedness, presence, and direction. A man who is authentic is not easily shaken by judgment or rejection. He knows that not every woman will be interested, and he accepts that reality without bitterness. This indifference born from authenticity creates freedom. He is free to be himself, and she is free to decide how she feels without pressure. Ironically, this freedom makes him more attractive because he isn't clinging or trying to force an outcome. His authenticity becomes the filter that naturally attracts the right kind of woman, while repelling the wrong ones. Being authentic also means living in alignment with values. If a man claims to value discipline but constantly makes excuses, or says he values honesty while telling lies, he creates dissonance that others can sense. But when his words and actions align, that congruence is felt deeply. Women may not always articulate it, but they recognize it instantly. This consistency creates stability, and stability builds trust. Trust then becomes the foundation on which attraction deepens because without it, desire cannot last. Another layer of authenticity is vulnerability, not in the sense of oversharing or appearing weak, but in showing genuine emotion when it matters. A man who can be strong yet still express truth in moments of intimacy demonstrates depth. He is not hiding behind a wall of performance. He is showing humanity while still standing firm in who he is. This balance of strength and openness is rare and compelling, and it often turns indifference into admiration. What makes authenticity so powerful is that it cannot be faked. It is not about memorizing lines or following a strategy. It is about stripping away the layers of insecurity and presenting yourself as you truly are. Women are drawn to that because it signals that a man is not controlled by fear or external validation. Even if she was not interested at first, authenticity has the power to shift her perspective because it makes him stand out from the noise. In a world full of imitation and pretense, the man who is unapologetically himself becomes unforgettable. Attraction isn't about tricks, fake charm, or desperate chasing. It's about who you become and the energy you radiate. Confidence shows her you value yourself. Scarcity and mystery spark her curiosity. Emotional impact makes you unforgettable. Respectful indifference proves you are complete on your own. Living with purpose inspires her to want to join your journey. And authenticity binds it all together, because nothing is more powerful than being real. When you master these, you stop asking how to make a woman want you, because the truth is, she'll feel drawn to you naturally. Attraction is not something you force, it's something you create by becoming the kind of man worth wanting.